In this video I'm going to give you an update on the new rules for professional contractors. This video is about the new rules that affect professional contractors, or as they're commonly called, IR35. From April 2020, new rules are coming in which affect the way in which we calculate whether something's included in IR35 or not included in IR35, and that's what I want to talk about. If you'd like to see future videos, then please press the bell button, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. I'll be really interested to hear your opinions and views. So let's start by a quick recap on the rules on IR35. So IR35 says that if you behave like an employee, you should be taxed like an employee. And nobody wants to be taxed like an employee because the self-employed are taxed loads less than those who are employees. And that's the crux of the problem, is that people want to pay less tax and they want to do it by being compliant with IR35. Currently, the rules are such that the person who decides whether you're IR35 compliant or not is you and your company. And it is also true that if you get that wrong, the person who is liable for the extra tax is you and your company. That's changing in the future, so that the person who you actually do the work for, I'd hate to say the word employer, but the person who you actually do the work for is going to be liable if IR35 is incorrect. The rules themselves about whether you fall within IR35 or not don't actually change, it's just who decides that change. Now in one way that's really good, because the liability goes from the individual and their company to the person you do the work for, so you're getting rid of a liability. Great. However, there is a catch, and that's why I'm talking about it in this video. And the catch is, if it's you that decides whether you fall in IR35 or not, well, you've got a lot of money at stake, so you might have an opinion and you will certainly try to make yourself compliant. Whereas if you're a big bank or a big institution and you've got maybe thousands of people who are within IR35, first of all, it's a lot easier for the revenue to check one business with 1,000 contractors than 1,000 individual contractors. And the second problem is that they will be inherently, because they're big organisations, they're likely to be risk averse, and also it's not their money that's at stake. The new rules are coming into place are for big companies in the private sector. Previously, the public sector was brought into these new rules, and the revenue are rolling it out to the private sector because they got a whole load of extra money from putting it into the public sector. Now, one of the observations that I have is that the private sector, first of all, is much more compliant in the first place than the public sector ever was. I know this is really surprising. You'd have thought the public sector was really compliant, but in my belief, the public sector was less compliant than the private sector in the first place. I mean, my other observation is that the private sector can be a lot more flexible than the public sector in changing the rules and trying and effectively wriggling around to make sure that it's compliant. Because a lot of people who are contractors work in areas where their skills are in very high demand, and the people who need the work done, the employers or not employers, really need those skills, and they're in a competition with other companies to get those skills. And so it's really in their interest, although they don't have a financial interest in making sure that you pay less tax, they do have an interest in attracting contractors, and therefore they are interested in making sure that the IR35 rules work for you. And that is showing up, and I am seeing some of the contractors that I work for, they're changing the rules and making sure that they're going to comply and setting things up. Big business though is big business, and it's inherently quite bureaucratic, and a lot of the people who work as contractors do work for big banks. So at the moment it's just sort of trundling through on the to-do lists in the HR and accounts departments, and it hasn't actually come to an end where they're making a decision about what they're doing. And I suspect some of that is about looking at the competition, and they'll be looking at what the other banks are doing, and they're also going to step out in a synchronised way, so that they don't trip themselves up and end up with no IT departments. The new rules come in from the next tax year, which starts in April 2020. So in the run up to that, it's really important that you get your contract sorted, that you speak to the company where you do the work and make sure that you do comply and that they are happy that you comply. And that might mean in order to save quite a lot of tax, you might have to change employer or go on 6-month contracts, or there might be things that you have to do in order to comply, because the difference in tax is so significant. I think it's likely that there might be a choice to be made between paying more tax and have security of a longer contract or an employment. And I think one of the things you might be interested in is in the difference in take-home pay between being self-employed and having an employment. And if you understand that, then you can make a choice about the security versus the extra money. And then it's a rational choice. You can make it, and it's certainly not for me to judge. But if you want to do that, please contact us at the Accountancy People and we can help you sort that out. Thank you for watching, and I'll be interested to know what you think about this issue.